Hello, everyone, and welcome to REOC's Barbershop Talk. Today is September 2nd, 2020, and this Barbershop Talk is going to be a little different than what we're used to. In the past, we have had Barbershop Talk in our classrooms on the first floor, in the barbershop barbering classrooms on the first floor, um, with a live audience, which would be the students and guests from the community. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic and our social distancing, we have to do it via Zoom this year. But we will still be doing the barbershop talk. And today we have a special guest with us. He is our own counselor at REOC. His name is Mr. Stephen Kugel, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hey everyone, I am the mental health counselor at the REOC. I also am a program counselor for LPN and CNA, as well as child development associate. It's nice to be here.
Nice to have you too, sir. So I wanted to introduce you to the Barbershop Talk as our first guest because with your experience and your knowledge about mental health, we can just imagine how much is affecting people in our community, people in our society that wants to, live a normal life, but really don't have that flexibility to do so right now. So, Mr. Fogel, do you think this is the new norm?
It's a good question, and I think that's a term that's been thrown around a lot. And it's not my favorite term, only because in therapy and mental health, we usually use that to describe something that's permanent. So a permanent change in somebody's life, and think about like a disability. Somebody gets in a car accident, and they might become paralyzed from the waist down, and then they definitely have to learn a new normal way of life. In terms of the COVID-19 pandemic, individually, some people have lost loved ones, and some people have become disabled from COVID-19 even after they've recovered from it. Some have long-lasting disabilities. Mm-hmm. So certainly on an individual level, some people are having to deal with a new normal. Mm-hmm. But if we're looking at it from a societal view, the new normal is, we're not in a new normal as far as I'm concerned. We're in what I like to call normal for now. Right. And, that's a lot of, the mask wearing and the social distancing and not being able to go out as many places as you'd like to be able to go out to. But those things aren't going to last because this pandemic is not going to last. We're eventually going to get to a place where we have a vaccine or a cure or herd immunity, and this virus is going to go away, and we're going to be able to go back and do all those things that we were able to do. So I call it normal for now because the new norm makes it seem like it's permanent, and I think that just adds to the anxiety and the angst that we're all feeling about the situation we're in right now.
Oh, nice, man, nice. Because we're trying to use that word as a new norm, but we really thank you for breaking that down for us. So, what are some of the signs and symptoms that COVID-19 has affected our mental health?
So, separate from the actual virus, which can affect your mental health if you get it, but if we're just talking about the pandemic itself, there's things to look out for, and some of these things are really perfectly normal at this time. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that you shouldn't seek support, because you definitely should. Mm-hmm. But it's just to say that you're not alone in these feelings, and they probably won't stay forever. And they'll most likely go away after COVID ends. There are going to be some residual feelings, I believe. There's still going to be some anxiety about the future. There's going to be hypervigilance. When we're looking at other people who are sick, we're not just going to, how we used to maybe just kind of stay away from them. If somebody comes into work sick, we might, feel the need to tell a supervisor or something, because, we've been so affected by this pandemic. So things that you might be dealing with, like anxiety. If you've ever had an anxiety disorder or anxiety at any time in your life, you might be used to seeing it as kind of this nervous, nail-biting, queasy stomach kind of anxiety, but it can also come out as like extreme irritability, feeling numb, losing motivation to do anything, you know, not finding any joy in things that you used to find joy in. So it's important to kind of recognize that, and that you might not see what you're experiencing as anxiety, but those are also very real anxiety symptoms. So between that and depression and isolation, I mean, there's a lot to be on the lookout for during this pandemic.
All right. So do you think that substance abuse is more prevalent during this time in the pandemic?
Oh, absolutely. You know, given that we've talked about the mental health aspects, and, you know, anytime there's increased stress, you're going to have a increased risk for people abusing substances. And I think especially during the pandemic, because we're coupling not just stress, but also isolation. So we've got two risk factors for substance abuse all wrapped into one. And it's not just a little stress, and it's not just a little isolation. These are big stresses and big isolation that people are dealing with. So there's definitely a risk for people abusing substances who have abused before, but there's also definitely an increased risk for people who have never abused substances in the past to start abusing substances, to try and deal with that anxiety and all the emotions that we're all feeling, you know, that have been brought on by this pandemic.
Right. So the governor has shut the state down for about 5-6 months, right? So we've all been cooped up with our families, kids. A lot of people lost their jobs. So we're seeing the same people every day in and out for a very long time. So what are some of the psychological effects of COVID-19 on children versus adults? What do you think are some of those?
Well, children versus adults, I think it's become pretty popular to say don't worry because children are resilient, and I'm not a big fan of that saying either, just because it kind of marginalizes children's needs. But with that said, I think it really depends on the child or the adult. You know, if you have a really social child, this is definitely going to be a harder time for them. And also, if you're a very social adult, this is a harder time for you. But on the other hand, if you or your child are, you know, homebodies and you're just kind of like hanging out at home, this probably isn't as difficult for you. It's still difficult, but probably not as difficult.
Right.
I think the main difference is that children, you know, depend on adults to keep them safe. Right. And generally, if those children grow up in a safe environment, then for the most part, they feel less anxious because mom and dad are in control. So on the other hand, we've got parents. So those of us who are parents can relate to this. We don't have a playbook for this, for a pandemic. We've never gone through this before. So we're trying to make the best decisions for our families. But the information about the virus has become so politicized, it can be really difficult to sort out the truth and, you know, make the decisions that we need to make. So in adults, especially parents, I think the anxiety is much higher because we really are winging it from day to day and just kind of praying that we're making the right decisions for our families.
Right. So what do you think are some of the steps someone can take, or even myself could take, to ease some of this anxiety during this pandemic? Because some people are, you know, we're going into fall. We got the school system saying, well, we're going to do 10 weeks remote. Some school districts are doing hybrids, half on, half off. A lot of people are just saying, man, I'm not going back out there. I'm really anxious. I don't want to deal with crowds. You know, the movie theaters and bowling alleys are now open, but I don't think anybody going in there. There's this anxiety that's going on, this fear. So what are some things that I could do to feel better during this whole pandemic, this whole lockdown, if it should happen again?
Right. And I want to say too is, just to add before I answer this one into the last question that kind of goes into this, is that we do have that remote learning aspect of where we're asking parents to do a lot of the online learning stuff with their children. And so that just adds a lot of stress too, to have to go from the role of parent to teacher and then back to parent, in the same household. I want to say I am feeling optimistic because when we went to remote learning in March, uh, it, the school districts didn't have a plan because nobody saw this coming. But I think right now the school districts all have some pretty solid plans that will help parents to be less involved in that day-to-day online learning.
Right.
It'll still be difficult, but hopefully less difficult.
Right. Hopefully, yeah.
But as far as what anybody can do to kind of help ease this anxiety and all the emotions involved in this, um, one thing that always helps me is this quote that has stuck with me from Jim Carrey, of all people, the comedian and actor.
Right.
Can't remember the exact quote, but he was talking about the news and social media and how that can add so much anxiety to our lives and make us feel like there's all this danger right outside our door. So like if we went outside, there it is, it's all there. So he said, when he's feeling like that, he gets up and goes and looks outside his window and realizes that, uh, coronavirus isn't out there waiting for him, or, there's no riots outside his door. For some people there are, unfortunately, but for the majority of Americans, we can look out our window and there's not rioting going on. There's not, any of this unrest that we see on the news. So it's kind of a way to reset your brain, because your brain can be watching the news and on social media, and your brain can kind of be like, oh no, this is terrible, this is so scary, and it can paralyze you almost. So to be able to reset your brain, look out your own window and say, you know what, like these things are happening, but they're not happening outside my front door.
Right.
So that can be a good way. And other ways to kind of reset your brain, mindfulness techniques, meditation, um, making sure that you're not consuming too much news, uh, taking breaks from social media, maybe scheduling times during the day when you look at social media and the rest of the day you're not, because that can really, really add to your stress.
Yeah.
And just kind of reality checks. Right now we're very lucky in our community, our county, and even our state. Our cases are very low compared to the rest of the nation. So while that doesn't mean we should be less vigilant, it certainly means that we have a lot less of a chance of becoming infected with COVID at this time. I hope and pray that it stays that way. It might not, but that's a reality of what we have right now. So it's hard to watch the world news and see all this COVID all over the place and remember that here in Monroe County, we're doing, pretty well.
Yeah, we are. We are doing pretty well. Very good, man. So for students who are coming in this fall to REOC, if they should get anxious or they feel like they can't do it or they feel like they have to pull out the classes, 'cause I know we're going to do a hybrid form of learning this year. Is there any agencies or any referrals that you know offhand that you might be able to refer someone to if they're facing anxiety or being depressed during classes or anything like that? Do you know anybody offhand?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, first and foremost, every program has a counselor, so I would encourage them to reach out to their counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have, different places that we can refer to. The Mental Health Association is now offering walk-in hours from 5 to 9, Monday through um, actually every day, 7 days a week. So you can walk in there. I think, seeing a therapist is a really good way to work through some of this, because you can work on CBT, cognitive behavioral techniques, that can help ease your anxiety.
Right.
And reaching out to friends and family, really using your support network. I try to emphasize with people that this isn't a time for pride, it's a time for connection.
Yes.
So even if you are used to being like the rock in your family or in your social network, this is the time to give yourself permission to um, be vulnerable and reach out and connect with others.
Right.
Because we have this unique opportunity right now that we all have these lives that we go through, and we all have different challenges, and some of the time we can't understand somebody else's challenges because we've never been through them. But it's different now because we're all going through this COVID-19 pandemic, so we can all, kind of understand what it feels like to be anxious and afraid right now. And this just gives us a really great opportunity to connect with each other. So I encourage anybody that might be a little, prideful and like, I can do this by myself, to just let that go and let yourself connect with people, and you'd be amazed at how much that will help you and your mental health.
All right, well said. So you hear that, folks? If you are in the RUC program this fall and you do feel like you need someone to talk to you, first shot would be the counselors. Now they have a wide variety of resources for you if needed to refer you out to the community, but definitely see your counselor first, and we'll try and help you get through that. We want to thank everyone for watching the first episode of Barbershop Talk Zoom. I want to thank Mr. Stephen Fogel again. He's one of the program counselors at the RUC, and myself, Kenny Ferguson. I'm one of the program counselors also at RUC, and I host the Barbershop Talk program. Until next time, we're going to do Barbershop Talk every second Tuesday of the month. We're trying to upload a video by 3 p.m. So if you really like these discussions, please check our website and you'll see a new video every month. It's going to be a different topic next month. We're going to look at different things that are affecting people, probably financially, strain on the relationships. There's a wide variety of topics that we're going to leave it general for the public, not just for men, because in the past we used to be more geared towards men for the barbershop talk. This year we're going to do it as a holistic approach for everyone, because we are in this together. It's a really tough time and we need each other to stay strong. Until next time, thank you very much, and I'll see you then. Thank you, Mr. Fogel.
Thank you.
Right.